Okay, so my name is Danny Beurlage. I come from Holland, and I am an Office 365 MVP. Basically, my work within our company is to manage and implement all sorts of customers who want to start on running Office 365. Most of these implementations are Office 365 E3 implementations. Sometimes they're educational implementations. They're large, and sometimes even a little bit smaller. In most cases, they're 100 seats to 80,000 seats, and everything in between. So, if you want to manage those types of environments, you'll better know your stuff. And managing those types of environments through the browser can be a little bit of a heartache. So that's why I started looking at PowerShell, and I, got to know all these great PowerShell commands, which will help you manage your Office 365 implementation. So right now in this session, I'm not going to dive real deep into PowerShell. I'm not going to show you, how you can create these big, great scripts, but I will help you learn to understand what PowerShell in an Office 365 deployment can actually do for you. So it's not a real deep, advanced PowerShell session. If you were expecting that, please look for another session. But I will introduce you to all the different things that PowerShell can do for an Office 365 implementation. So just for me, who here uses Office 365 currently? Wow. Who here uses PowerShell for Office 365? Most of you, great. All right, so why PowerShell? Basically, it helps me be more productive in the work I do for my customers in managing all these great Office 365 implementations. It helps me perform all sorts of tasks, in bulk. Things I don't want to do through the browser or through the web UI. It will help me enhance my productivity, to be honest. Next to that, of course, there are a few commands or there are a few things which you cannot do without PowerShell. So for instance, if you want to manage real complex link online implementations or real complex link online settings, you will need PowerShell for link online, which by the way has not been released yet, but will be coming soon. Right now it's in a preview, pre-production state. And actually you can request it if you have a specific need for it and a specific goal to achieve with link online. But also for components like ADFS and stuff, you'll need your PowerShell to set it up and to make it configure it the way you want. So if you want to start using PowerShell for Office 365, you'll need a few base components. First of all, you'll need a Windows Server or Windows 8 machine. You can also run it from a Windows 7 SP1 machine or a Windows Server 2008 machine. And next to that, you'll need to install some software in your client, the client which you're running your PowerShell commands out of. You need the .NET Framework 4.5, Windows Management Framework 3.0, and those two are included in Windows Server 2012 and Windows 8. So you will not need to install those. Next to that, you'll need to download some modules. And all these great boxes up here are links. So when you get back home and you want to download them, don't start searching the internet, but just download this presentation and you'll have all these great links towards all these different PowerShell environments. Basically, you'll need to download a module for Windows Azure Active Directory and a module for SharePoint Online. The Exchange PowerShell commands are basically run remote. So you'll download them as soon as you start wanting to manage your Exchange Online environment. Another tip I can give you is when you start managing your environment through PowerShell, use the integrated scripting environment, PowerShell ICE. Basically, that'll give you IntelliSense, and especially with PowerShell, that's great. Next to that, you can see what kind of scripts you're running. You can browse through those scripts, save them as you go, and it'll basically enhance productivity. All right, so let's start off with managing the Windows Azure Active Directory. Basically, what PowerShell for the Windows Azure Active Directory does, it'll allow you to perform some basic operations for the management of your Office 365 tenant, or perform user management tasks. When you're a partner, you can manage your customers' tenants with your delegated administration credentials. just by supplying the tenant ID of the specific tenant you want to administer. Basically, PowerShell for Windows Azure Active Directory allows you to perform basic tasks upon your management environment. And the number of PowerShell commands is growing, though slowly, but it's growing, and it's giving you more and more and more things which you can use in your day-to-day operations. What I'll do is I'll run you through some basic commands, and after that we'll do some more advanced stuff. All right, so some basic user operations. First of all, if you want to start off with PowerShell and you want to start off with the PowerShell integrated scripting environment, you need to find it. And it's hidden. You'll need to type a command in order to get it. The command actually is PowerShell_ice. If you don't hit it correctly, if you don't type it in correctly, it will not show up. So you need to put it in entirely. Also, you can show it by also you can find it by showing the administrative tasks from your Windows 8 menu. So if you go towards your Windows 8 menu, go towards, let me do it like this. Go towards your settings. You can actually display the administrative tasks from right over there. So let me do it again. Tiles, show the administrative tools. If you turn on the administrative tools, a bunch of new programs will be shown in your Windows 8 Start menu, and the integrated scripting environment is part of that. As soon as your client starts, you can basically load up your scripts right on top, and in the bottom you can start typing, and again it will give you IntelliSense. So in order to connect to Windows Azure Active Directory, you'll type connect minus Microsoft Online Service, and hit the enter button. From there, it'll ask you for your credentials, your username and your password, and you'll log into the environment. So in this case, I should have found a shorter name, .com. All right, I've typed in my username and my password, and it'll connect me to the environment. So right now I am connected to Office 365, and I can start performing my basic operation tasks through the Windows Azure Active Directory. The Windows Azure Active Directory basically is your environment which manages all the user information, your account credentials, your domain names, but also some general tenant information like who the partner is, and it'll allow you to specify specific administrators, for instance, for your tenant. From here on, I can perform specific tasks like get Microsoft Online user. What it will do is as soon as I hit enter, it'll go back to Windows Azure Active Directory, and it'll show me a list of all the users in your tenant. In this case, in this demo environment, about 40, 50, 60, maybe even more users, and it'll tell you the basic information about all these different users. Next to that, it'll show you 3 different properties. You are able to get more properties out of there, basically by using traditional or normal PowerShell commands, like in this case featuring user name and last name. And this will give me a list of all the users in my environment with their first and their last name. Ooh, it sounds really clean. All right. So it'll allow you to get all the different other properties that are out there as well. If you don't know a list of all the different properties, you can type select star. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Which will give you all the properties for all the users in your entire environment. The get user commands allows you to filter on a specific user, so you can get all the properties for one specific user if you want. Next to just starting, or next to just getting the information for a user, you can also create new users. And because I don't like to type, I've got my notepad right up here, and I'll copy it over. What this will do is I'll specify the command new Microsoft Online user. I'll have to specify a user principal name, and I must have used this before. You'll have to give a first name, a last name, and a display name. And later on, as you might know, you'll have to give, for instance, other information like the usage location. Without specifying a usage location, you will not be able to give a license to the specific user. But we'll leave it like this for later on, and I'll show you what's happening. So my user has been created, a password has been specified, and in this case, this password has been generated by Microsoft, which is RAKU8769. And please don't go in there right now and change it, because I want to show you something. So let's go to portal.microsoftonline.com. I'll type in my user, demo02 at office365 pwa All right, I should have changed this before. And I've just copied the password and put it in my password pane. It'll allow me to sign in. First, it'll ask me to change my password, of course. And I'm using the Google Chrome browser just because it'll allow me to show two instances at the same time. So in my Internet Explorer, I'm logged in with my administrator credentials, and I will use my Google Chrome browser to log in as a user. And I'll have to specify a new password. All right, save. I'll have to log in again. And I'm logged into the Surface. However, because I've only specified the first name, the last name, and some other basic credentials, a user license has not been assigned to this specific user, so I cannot use the Office 365 services at this point. In order to do that, I would have to specify more commands with my new user command, which I'll do a little bit later on, and I'll show you a script to create all these users in bulk. But I'll tell you how to find out specific stuff like the actual license assignment and stuff. All right, so I've created the user demo02, demo user02. I have not specified all the additional information. And I can actually start creating other users or do more work. When I'm doing all this stuff and I'm creating users in bulk, I don't want all these usernames or passwords being generated by by PowerShell for me, but I would like to specify my own password. So even through PowerShell, I can set the PowerShell or the password for the user. So in order to do that, I have to specify the command set msol user password. I have to specify the identity for the user principal name, demo02 at Office 365 PWA demo.microsoft.com, and I can specify a new password, and I'll use the password 1. Of course, I've already changed my password through the browser. So this password has been reset to a new password, but you can use this in order to, especially when you're creating users in bulk, by specifying a password for all these users, you can create this nice Excel list and use this Excel list to mail merge or whatever your data for all the new users who are starting at your company or starting in your organization. Right now I've created users. I can also create groups. And those groups are especially handy if I'm not using ADFS, for instance, or even if I'm using ADFS, in order to specify groups for usage in, for instance, SharePoint Online. So by creating Office 365 groups, I can actually pull specific users with, for instance, specific credentials or specific departments or job titles, put them into an Office 365 group, and later on use them in, for instance, SharePoint Online. So in order to view all the groups which are available in SharePoint, I'll use the command get msol group. All right, I'll run that, and it will show me a list of all the groups which are available in my organization. It will also give me the group type, and this group type is especially handy if you want to know what you can actually do with this specific group. Using Windows Azure Active Directory will not allow me to create mail-enabled groups. So I will need the Exchange Online commands for that later on, but it will allow me to create security groups, which are basically only available for giving out security credentials or giving usage rights to, for instance, SharePoint Online. So in order to create a new group, I'll specify the command new msol group. Here it is, and through IntelliSense, I will be able to supply a display name. Example number 3. I can give it description if I want. Number 3. Oh, thank you for that. That was part of my demo, actually. I wanted to see if you were noticing or paying attention. All right. Right now I've created my new security group. And later on I can use the security group again to give all these different users. Also, through PowerShell I'll be able to add specific users to a group. So through the command new MSOL group, add MSOL group member, I will be able to add users towards this, in this group. There's a problem, however, because the users which I can add in my groups, I'll need to know their object ID. And basically this object ID is a unique identifier for a user. So it's not your user principal name, but it's a GUID, which you can only get through PowerShell. So you'll need to know how to get this GUID in order to add a specific user. So in order to do that, I'll need to look at the user GUID, which I have right here, which is the object ID. Through the select star command, I got all these additional commands, and I can get user GUIDs basically through a get user MSOL user command. So right now I've taken the user GUID for Tony Krijnen, and I'll use that. Bless you. And I'll use the group object ID, which is shown to me when I created the group. Here it is. I'll process that. And this specific user has been added to the example group number 4. So just to show you I'm not kidding around, I'll go to the portal. I'll select users and groups. Here are my security groups. And right now here's my example 4 security group, which I've just created through the browser. If I click that, it'll show me that Tony Krijnen at this point has been added to the group. Next to adding group members to a group, I can also remove group members through the remove MSOL group member command, and you'll get the drift of that. It's real simple, basically. It'll allow you to do bulk operations on specific users, especially when you create an entire script out of this. So creating specific users or adding users to groups or creating groups is great. However, of course, there's other tools to do this as well, like DirSync or bulk upload of users through CSV files or what have you. There are more difficult operations as well, which especially PowerShell is really handy for. So for instance, one of those bulk operations is performing all these tasks for management rights, so user management rights. So for instance, if I want to assign a role to a specific user, I can do that through the MSOL role command. So first of all, let me check which roles there are available. In this case, I can see all the 5 basic roles: company administrator, helpdesk administrator, billing administrator. I can also see some additional roles from either Exchange or the partner support roles, which is the tier 1 or the tier 2 partner support role. And I can actually use these roles or these object IDs to add roles to a specific user. So let me check. For instance, if I wanted to know if a specific user at this point already has a role assigned, I'll go over and get the role member, and I'll check the role object ID. So for instance, if I wanted to know who the company administrator for this organization is, I'll have to select the role object ID. And I can see that there are 3 administrators currently assigned to this organization: admin, Sarah D, and demo number 1. From here on, I can add additional users to this role or delete specific roles. So if I wanted to add the user who I've just created to the specific role, I'll use the command add MSOL role member. From here, I'll select the role object ID, which in this case is the same object ID which was shown in the list before. All right, and I'll have to select a role member object ID, which was given to me in the list before. So let's take a specific user, object ID for Neil Pels. There he is. I'll put this back here. And right now I've added Neil Pels as one of the company administrators. In order to show you that, I'll take a look at my previous command. And here he is. Neil Pels has just been added to the company administrator role. So this will allow you to manage the company administrators within your organization. We use this especially for doing bulk operations with tenant ideas from our customers. So if we want to manage multiple customers and manage all the administrators within those customers, or who can do what, typically our customers will ask us to do that in bulk for them, and we'll do it through PowerShell and add the specific users. If we wanted to assign a license to a specific user, first of all, I would have to check the kind of licenses which are available within my tenant. So in order to do that, a PowerShell command get MSOL subscription has been created. If I type get MSOL subscription, it will give me, in this case, for this specific tenant, 4 different licenses. It will give me the enterprise pack, which is basically E3, the Visio client, the project client, and the deskless worker pack. The deskless worker pack and the enterprise pack have a total of 25 licenses. The Visio client is currently in warning, which means that it will be disabled within the next 30 days. And the project client has been suspended. This was a previous trial, and right now it's not active anymore. So this is great. It shows me how many licenses we have available. The only problem is that it will not show me how many licenses have been used at this moment. So in order to know how many licenses have been used at this moment, I'll use the command get MSOL account SKU. SKU is a Microsoft term which basically tells you the different product numbers or the different product results. In this case, I'll get the SKU ID, and I'll need the SKU ID later on to give a user-specific usage right within a specific pack. So for instance, within the enterprise pack or the deskless worker pack. Also, it will tell me how many active units there are, so how many units there are available for me to assign, which is 25, 25, and 2 times 0. And the 2 times 0 is because they're either in a suspended mode or in a warning mode. It will tell me when or how many units are in the warning mode and how many units have been consumed. So how many users are currently using a specific license. So from here on, because I know these account SKUs, I will be able to add a specific license towards a specific user. So we've created this user demo02 a little bit earlier on, and I told you that the one of the properties had to be filled in, which was user's location. So right now what I will do is I will set the user license, and it will actually give me an error stating that I did not fill in the right user license. So user principal name, which was demo02, and Office 365 PWA demo.onmicrosoft.com. All right, I will add a license, and in this case, I will add the first license. So these license names are kind of cryptic. The enterprise pack or the deskless without office pack. But in the end, you get to know them. All right. And right here, the error message I will get is basically telling me that the usage location for the user has not been set. So in order to add a license to a user, I will need to set the usage location, which is set MSOL user, user principal name. I will copy that. All right. Usage location, let's say this person is located in the US. All right, and I've updated the usage location for the demo02 user. Right now, if I run my PowerShell command to add the license to the specific user again, here it is. Set MSOL user license, user principal name, and I hit enter, it will actually work. So right now, if the demo02 user logs in again, it will actually see that a license has been assigned to this user. So this was the previous screen for this user. Just updating the screen will not work. So I will need to sign out and sign back in again. Demo0, oh, I copied that, I think, yeah. All right, my old password, I'd reset it. All right, and right now you can see that a license has been added to the specific user. Basically, these operations allow you to do all sorts of modifications towards your entire tenant environment. So in order to get or to do operations in bulk, you would need to combine all these different commands and use these different commands to upload licenses, for instance, or add users in bulk, for instance. There are a lot of scripts out there, especially on TechNet, and just search for Office 365 PowerShell scripts, and it will give you all these great examples which you can use to add users in bulk or assign licenses, for instance, in bulk for users that have been created through DearSync. So you don't have to go and do all this stuff manually. So in order to do that, I've downloaded a couple of scripts. Let me open one of these scripts. Here it is. I've downloaded a script which will allow me to create users in bulk, which is on TechEd. And basically, it's a module. So I'll have to import this module. Import module. And here's a list of all the files. And right now, this module is available to me, and I can actually use it. So just to take you through the module, what this module actually does is it'll ask for specific parameters, and from there on, it'll start creating, and here it is, new MSOL user. It will start creating all these users in bulk. So in order to use this specific module, I'll have to specify the file name when creating or when starting the command in this module, and I would have to create a CSV file containing all the different users. So right now, here's my Excel sheet, and this Excel sheet has all these different users in here, 25 to be exact, or what is it, 29, and I'll have to save this as a CSV file. So if there's anybody here not from the US, you'll have to remember to set your settings to comma, otherwise it will not work. Basically, international Excel works with a dot comma, a semicolon, I think it's called, and PowerShell will not pick that up in most occasions. So here's my user list, .csv, which I've saved through Excel. And just to show you I'm not getting around, I'll change this one into demo user number 12. And it will create, oh, that's not good, demo user number 120. And it will create all these different users through this PowerShell script. So if we go back towards the client, first of all, and I'll show you the users and groups which have been created right now. Here we are. Basically, there's only 2 demo users or 3 demo users. I'll delete these 2. All right. And right now, there's only 1 demo user, demo K1. From here on, I can start the script, which works. Let me see. There it is. Import OSC user. I'll have to specify the file path. User list.csv. And right now it will create all the specific users for me. I could have licensed them, I could have given them all sorts of different passwords, I could have created a dump from my HR system or whatever and run a PowerShell script every night, which is timed, in order to create new or delete specific users. These types of operations are the operations that are mainly that people mainly do with these types of scripts. So right now, if I go back to my environment and I'll hit the refresh button, you'll see that all these new users have been added to the environment. And right now it's finished. So here it is. All right. So that's it for the Windows Azure Active Directory module. If we take a look at the other modules which are available, for instance, Exchange Online. With Exchange Online, I can actually manage my Exchange Online environment. In order to do this, Microsoft, or available on TechEd, there are specific management models which will give you some extra commands in your PowerShell ICE environment. So in this case, in order to connect to Exchange Online, I'll have to type specific commands, but just because I don't like typing, I've added these commands to my PowerShell ICE environment. So just search TechEd or TechNet for Office 365 management model, and you'll get a PowerShell plugin, which will type all these commands for you, so you don't have to do it by hand. So right now, I've executed it through Tools, and then connect to Office 365 Exchange Online. I'll have to specify my password and my username. And it will start connecting to the Exchange Online environment. What it will next do is it will download the actual PowerShell modules, which will allow me to do all these PowerShell operations toward my Exchange Online environment. So I did not have to install an Exchange Online PowerShell module, but actually it's downloading all these PowerShell commands right now, so I can perform all the different operations. Within the PowerShell Exchange Online module, most of the operations which are available in the Exchange on-premise environment are available as well. A lot of the commands which are available, however, do not have all the parameters in Exchange Online. So when you're reusing specific scripts which you've created for an on-premise environment, you need to think through those scripts or test those scripts thoroughly, because in the end, because some of the parameters are lacking, not all operations will work like expected. Some of the parameters which are available is probably or almost the same parameter as the get MSOL user is the get user command. The get user command will basically give you a list of all the different users in your in your Office 365 environment, in your Exchange Online environment, and from here it will tell you if a user has a mailbox connected to it or if it's only a user. Here are the demo users which we've just created. Through PowerShell, I can now, for instance, put a filter in all these different users. So for instance, if I only want to get the users which are in a specific group, I'll specify a filter. And in the filter I will say departments equals finance. All right. And right now I'll get all the users who have the user property finance set in their department field. I can even combine specific users if I wanted to. So for instance, if I wanted to look at all the different users with a mailbox, I can, in this case, filter out LAB, which doesn't really make sense for 4 users, but all right, let's just show you. And I can use that to, for instance, set properties to all the user mailboxes for a specific user, like setting a mail tip or something like that. So in order to do that, I'll use the get user, filter department equals finance, and I'll add and recipient type equals user mailbox. All right, and it will return me only the 3 users or the 4 users with a user mailbox who are in the department finance. Oh, I made a mistake there. I'll have to put this in between quotes. All right, and right now it returned 4 specific users to me. So for instance, let's say I wanted to specify a mail tip for all the users in the finance department. First of all, I'll go to Outlook, and I'll show you a mail tip which has been sent for these specific users. All right, Outlook web app. Ooh, it's slow. One of the users in my environment is Tony Kreinen again. So what I will do is I will create a new mail. Tony Kreinen. And as soon as I start mailing him, I notice that the finance people have their mail tip set to finance rocks. To be honest, I really do think that finance rocks, but let's set a different mail tip for these users. And in order to do that, I'll have to get the same users. So get all the users within the finance department. And from there on, I can use the command set mailbox, mail tip, and let's make it a little bit more realistic. Finance is great. All right. And as soon as I've said that, the new mail tip for all these specific users will be finance is great. I can set in bulk all these types of mail tips and do all sorts of other operations, like for instance specifying a specific send limit or creating user passwords or adding user password for my users in bulk. So in order to do that, a lot of users do not add their pictures when they first start off with an Office 365 subscription. So you will be allowed, or you are able to set user pictures if you want. In order to do that, you will need to collect all these different user passwords. And from here on, there's a command available for you, which is called set user photo. And the set user photo will allow you to specify a specific picture for a specific user. So I've typed it beforehand. Set user photo. I'll need to specify the user which is actually affected, which in this case is mod administrator, and I'll need to specify the picture data. So I'll need to get it out of my file system, and in order to do that, I've used release before. I'll change this to Danny, hit the enter button, and right now it will upload the photo into Exchange Online, or the picture into Exchange Online. It will ask me if I really do want to change the picture for the mod administrator, and a user picture has been created. It'll take a couple of minutes before this will actually show up in the Exchange Online console, but after it's been uploaded and it's been processed, the user picture for this specific user will have been set. And I can, of course, do this in bulk by iterating through all the different users in my environment and then set all the different user pictures for all the users in my environment if I want. All right, so these are some basic operations which I can perform with mailboxes. Again, like I've done with the Windows Azure Active Directory environment, I can also get all sorts of information around user groups. So in this case, get group will give me a list of all the groups which are available for me in my Exchange Online environment. It'll give me all the security-enabled groups, the universal groups, mail-enabled groups, with all the descriptions that I've just given it. The example 4 group, which we've just created, will not show up here. Basically, it will not show up here because it's not a mail-enabled group. So in order to get all the groups in my Office 365 tenant, I'll need the Windows Azure Active Directory command. In order to get only the mail-enabled groups, I'll need to specify a get group command in my through my Exchange Online PowerShell environment. So from here, I can also create a new mail-enabled group. So the new distribution group, name example 5 with an alias, which is called example 5 of the type security, and the primary SMTP address. Primary SMTP address of example 5 at Office 365 demo.onmicrosoft.com will actually create a mail-enabled security group for me. So I can also, of course, do this through the web user interface by going to the administration portal, and from here on select all the groups or look at all the different groups, and you'll see here that the example 5 group has not been created yet. So when I hit the enter button right now, it will actually execute towards Exchange Online, and it will give me feedback that the user group has been created. So by hitting the F5 button, it will show me under the list of groups the example 5 mailbox, and this will take probably a couple of seconds before it has been processed, and it will show up in the user interface. Here it is, example number 5. So next to creating groups through the interface, I can also get all the distribution groups for specific users or specific environments. So for instance, if I wanted to get a specific distribution group, I would look at get distribution group. We'll take one of the distribution groups specified before, finance team. There it is. And this will return me all the data around this specific distribution group, which was listed in my distribution group list before. So here it is, the finance team distribution group with all the finance, with the finance team display name, and you'll see the group type. This will only give me some of the properties. So in order to get all the different properties of this specific distribution group, I'll use the command format list. There it is. And this will show me all the detailed information regarding this user group with all the custom attributes, etc., which are in there. All these attributes can be set through PowerShell in bulk if you want. And you can also create lists which only show you some of the properties if you want, or export that, for instance, towards a text file or whatever. If you want to get the users, you'll use the command get distribution group members. Here it is. And again, the identity was finance team. Up. And this will, in this case, give me only one user. All right, so these are just some basic commands which will allow you, which are mainly the same as your on-premise Exchange environments. But again, please check all the different commands. So one of the things that Office 365 brings to you is all these different users, but you'll have to pay a specific amount of money for every user, depending on the number of licenses or the type of license that you've connected to the user. So one thing that happens within the most organization is that somebody at one time leaves the company. You don't want to delete their user mailboxes. Typically, you would want to keep their user mailbox with all the content in there to make sure that you can reference that at a later state. In order, Exchange Online Wave 15 presented something great new to us, which is basically the shared mailbox. And one thing that's great about the shared mailbox is that it's free of charge. So instead of having to pay a specific amount per user per month, you can create these shared mailboxes and migrate all the data from a user mailbox into a shared mailbox when somebody has left the company. From that moment on, you will not pay license fee anymore. So it's basically a free mailbox which you can reference at any given date if you want to get some data out of there. This is great, of course, for minimizing the cost of your deployment, especially when you're replacing specific people. If you're not converting a user that has left the company towards a team mailbox or a shared mailbox, you will either have to continue to pay for that specific user, or you will lose all the user's data. And especially if you want to reference it later on, there's a problem. Yes, sir?
Did they just come out with, just recently, a function to inactivate a user?
That's right. However, the inactive mailboxes do require a license as well. It's a cheaper license, but it does require a license unless they've changed it without me knowing it.
That's the big thing. They kept it for discovery purposes, but aren't charging you, but you can't.
Oh, that's true. You can discover those. That's right. You can discover those users through the e-discovery function. However, you can normal users cannot access it and use it to reference specific data.
Right.
If you convert it over to a shared mailbox, basically everybody within your company will be able to reference that specific mailbox and use all the data within that specific mailbox. So in order to use that command, you'll have to go to TechEd, and there is a sample there which you can use and which you can build upon. I've taken that sample, I've changed it a little bit around, and basically what you will have to do here is use a specific user address or type in the command, convert user to shared, specify the user domain which you want to, or the user which you want to convert, and specify a new domain which is actually the security group or the shared mailbox name, and from there on the user is actually converted into a shared mailbox. In the end, what this will do is it will check if the current user mailbox is below 5 gigabytes, basically because the shared mailbox needs to be below 5 gigabytes. If it's not below 5 gigabytes, it will issue a warning that you will need to change it, and it will delete the specific user license. So right here, it will say that it's removing the license, and from there on, it will close the procedure, and your user mailbox is converted into a shared mailbox. You would have to need to delete that before or migrate the data into your user mailbox. Yeah. All right, so in order to run this command, and probably you would be able to do that with a PowerShell command as well, migrate all the data from your archive into your traditional mailbox. Yeah. All right, so in order to run this command, convert user to shared, I will use a user which we've used before, Tony Kreinen at Office 365 PWA demo.onmicrosoft.com, and I'll change this to Tony K. Right now, if we go back to the administrative portal and I'll look at all the mailboxes, here's the Tony Kreinen mailbox. Currently it's active. You'll see all the different data around it. And here's the list of shared mailboxes. And Tony Kreinen is not currently a part of this. So I'll run the command, processing the user Tony Kreinen. Sorry? Oh, yeah, thank you. Here it is. Processing the user. The current mailbox size is 4.2 megabytes. Setting quota to 5 gigabytes. Removing the license. And right now it's done. So if we go back and look at all the different mailboxes, I'll need to refresh this. Tony Kreinen has left the building. And if we look at the shared mailboxes, I'll need to refresh this as well. He has been converted into a shared mailbox. So right now, it will keep the basic properties as well. So if there's an in-place archive or an in-place hold connected to the mailbox, it will keep all these different user properties. Also, I will need to set access to this specific shared mailbox. I can do this either through the browser, or I could specify this in the same command which I've just given earlier, and for instance give everybody within a specific team or within the organization access to this shared mailbox so they can reference it for later purposes. Also, I can do all sorts of other stuff with bigger PowerShell scripts. For instance, getting a list of all the mailbox permissions within my organization. So here's an example of that list, and basically if I run this, it'll give me all the users within my organization and all the mailbox permissions which they've got added to their environment. So I need to, probably it's timed out. All right, here it goes. It's now running Exchange Online again, and it'll iterate through all the different users. One of the things to notice is that as soon as you're using a long-running operation, is that after about 15 minutes it will time out, and you will need to start again. So especially when you're running scripts, for instance, at night, or you're running automated scripts, if those scripts run longer than 15 minutes per script, and probably this script will run longer than 15 minutes for this specific script, it will time out and it will basically stop the operation. So you will need to make sure that those scripts are a little bit quicker and that they will not run for a longer period of time. All right, I'll stop it from here. New in Wave 15 is PowerShell for SharePoint Online. And you know, this is great because PowerShell for SharePoint Online has not been there, and basically it took a lot of time to set specific settings, or you would need to be a star developer to create your own development scripts to create all these different automation scripts for managing your SharePoint Online environment. So managing SharePoint Online through PowerShell, it only gives you a basic set of commands. There's about 700 commands for SharePoint 2013 on-premise, and there's about 30 commands for SharePoint Online. So currently it's missing 670 or so commands. But the basic commands are here, and Microsoft is really making sure that, that new commands are added every now and then. If they keep up this rate, maybe at the end of this year, all the commands will be available for SharePoint Online, which are available for your SharePoint on-premise environment. Also, Microsoft has changed the PowerShell commands a little bit. And if you open up these PowerShell commands, you'll see that they differ from your SharePoint on-premise commands. A lot of the commands which were available had to be rewritten totally against SharePoint Online because it's a whole different object model. The commands are the same, however, MSOL has been added before all the commands just to make sure that that you have can distinguish between your on-premise scripts and your online scripts, or SharePoint Online, I'm sorry, SPO. So here is my SharePoint Online Administration Center. It basically keeps all the different sites, or site collections in this case. And from here on, I can actually start using PowerShell, or basically from my ICE environment. Whenever I need to connect to my environment, I'll need to download the SharePoint Online Management Shell to my computer. And from here on, I can actually start connecting. So the command for this is connect SPO service, which will allow me to connect to my SharePoint Online service environment. And from here on, I will need to specify a URL of the SharePoint Online environment. So this URL is not your domain name .sharepoint.com, but it's actually your domain name minus admin.sharepoint.com. So it's the domain name for your administration center. So in this case, for this tenant, it will be https Office 365 PVA demo minus admin, which is the administration center URL. So I'll type this in here. I will need to log in. All right, it will authenticate me. And from there on, I can start using all these different commands. So one of the commands which you can use to get all the site collections in your environment is the get SPO site command. What this will do is it will give me a list of all the site collections except for the end user site collections. So the traditional my site collection or personal user site collections. But it will give me, for instance, the search site collection, which is the only one with a different domain name, which is not under either sites or under themes. It will also give me my primary my site collection, which is the Office 365 demo minus my.sharepoint.com, but not all the different user site collections. From here on, I can start creating, for instance, a new site. So in order to create a new site, I will need to specify new SPO site. I can use the URL, or give the URL, type in the URL to my environment without the admin edition. All right, /sites/ TechEd NOLA 13, for instance. Let's give it the title TechEd NOLA 13. I can specify a storage quota. In this case, I'll use a storage quota of 100 megabytes. I can specify the owner, which will actually be the site collection administrator. All right, I can add the resource quota, which will be depreciated from the next version on. And I can specify the locale ID, which is basically the language in which the site needs to be created. So US is 1033, and in this case Dutch is 1043. One more parameter has been created which is not available in the on-premise environment, which is the no-wait parameter. And the no-wait parameter is actually quite important. Basically, if you want to create a new site or a new site collection, it will take about a minute to create the site collection. You don't want your PowerShell scripts to wait a minute before you can actually proceed. So the no-wait parameter has been added so that it actually gives the command towards SharePoint Online, and SharePoint Online starts working on creating, in this case, this site collection, and you can continue with your other PowerShell commands. So you don't have to wait until this creation of a new site has been done. So here's my list of all the different site collections. I will execute the command. It'll need a couple of seconds to fire up and give SharePoint Online the command to create a new site. Should be a couple of seconds. And from there on, this site collection will be created. Actually, this tenant had a service outage yesterday, which is still visible in the in the center. So when preparing this demo yesterday, I kind of hit some problems, but right now everything is running smoothly. All right, so I'll reload the page. And what you'll see is that the TechEd NOLA site collection has been created for me, and I can actually wait, or I can actually show that it's actually being created. All right, let's wait for the page to load. This takes a long time. All right, it's loading. The no-wait parameter is actually really important. As you can see, we've executed the commands about 30 seconds ago, and it's still running. If you would do this in PowerShell, it would actually wait until the entire site has been created, and with the feedback, I can perform other commands. So the no-wait parameter is there to keep things up and running if you want to go on and perform other tasks. There's one thing that I haven't specified. I haven't specified a template. And specifying a template through PowerShell for SharePoint Online sites can be a little bit dirty because you don't know, in most cases, you don't know those template names. They're all encoded or they're all visible in code. So you would have to find out this code before you can actually specify, for instance, a blog template or a project template or a team site template. So in this case, if we open up this site, I'll click it. Site creation just started a couple of seconds ago. And it'll start up this site, and because I haven't specified a template, it'll ask me in Dutch what kind of site I want to make. So in this case, I'll choose a blog site. I'll click OK, and the site will be created for me. In order to do this, in order to know what kind of templates are available, another PowerShell command has been created, which is called get SPO web template. If I run it, I'll get all the templates which are available for me and which I can actually use in my commands. So from here, if I add one of these names of these templates to my new SharePoint Online site, let's specify template, and I'll create a template, or I will create a, let me see, a publishing portal. Here it is. This will error me because I will not be able to create a site collection under the same name. And right now, because I choose a template, in this case, a site collection with a specific template will be created for me. I cannot use custom site templates. Just for instance, if you have created your own web templates or site templates and you want to specify them or use them, you cannot do this through this environment. So you need to do that when creating the site template. You will need to upload your own specific site template for SharePoint Online, and from there on you can start the specific site, which is something which really should be solved in my personal opinion, but you know. All right, once I've created the site, I can actually create groups within the site and start working with these groups. So in order to go to my site, and we'll go back to the NOLA site, which I've created before, I can set up the groups right now when specifying this site or when first starting this site, and these three basic or standardized groups have been created. If I go to the site settings and I look at all the persons and groups, all the standard or the basic groups are available to me if I want to specify something. So when creating a site collection to a PowerShell scripts, which is being done especially by, for instance, educational organization, to create site collections for every class or for every class which is available within that educational organization, you would also need to add these groups and add users to these groups in order to make sure that all these specific users have access to these PowerShell or to these SharePoint site collections. So creating a new group within an environment basically can be done through PowerShell as well. So let me do new SPO site group. And from here I can specify the site, which in this case we'll use the NOLA site. All right. And I will call this name title. There you go. Group. People going to TechEd New Orleans. All right, and I'll specify a permission level of contribute, which is one of the standard permission levels available. All right, so right now a group will be created for me. So the no wait parameter is not available for this operation. The no wait parameter is only available for specific operations, and not all operations have this no wait parameter. Everything which takes a long time to process does have a no wait parameter. All the other things do not. And from here on, if I want, I can add a user to a specific site or to a specific group by adding add SPO user, specify the group which I want to add the user to, and thus add all the users to the groups. So PowerShell can be used to perform specific other tasks as well. One of those tasks is dynamically upsizing or upscaling the resource quotas given to a specific site. So for instance, you've got 1,000 site collections within your organization. There's no way of knowing automatically how many resources are currently being used by all these different site collections. So for instance, you could easily specify 100 gigabytes towards a specific site collection while the environment only consumes about 20 gigabytes. Or in the other way around, if you only specify 2 gigabytes for a specific site collection and the site collection already consumes, or at this point consumes, a lot less, or or almost is at its warning level, you will not. You will either have to wait for the user to notify you to increase the quota, or you can do this automatically through PowerShell. So right now, if you want to look at how much usage is being consumed by a specific site collection, you'll have to open it up, and from here you'll see that 66 resources have been, or 66 subsites have been created, and the usage, storage usage is 1,200 or almost 1.3 gigabytes of data. The storage quota which has been assigned to this specific site is 4 gigabytes. So there's plenty of room for this one, but that will not always be the case. So in order to get the information about how much how much storage is actually being consumed, we'll use the get SPO site parameter. So if I run the get SPO site parameter, it will not give me everything. In this case, it will only give me the storage quota and not the number of not the quota which is actually being consumed. So right now, what I will do is I will perform the PowerShell command again, get SPO site, and I will want to feature specific fields, which is the URL, the storage usage currents, and the storage quota. This actually gives me 3 fields: the URL, the current usage by the specific site, and the storage quota which has been assigned to this site. At this point, and this has been going on since yesterday, it doesn't allow me, or doesn't actually give me back the storage quota which has been consumed. Actually, yesterday you couldn't see even how much quota you've given to the specific site yesterday evening. So this is one of the errors which is currently going on, which is visible to the help dashboard. If the site was up and running and everything was running as it was supposed to, it would give me the actual quota consumed by all the different sites within my environment. From here, you can easily create a script which will fix the quotas. So for instance, if the quota is 80% or 90% of a specific, or if the usage is 80% or 90% of the specific site, you can create a script which in this case, right here it's shown, which will get all the different sites and then iterate through all the sites. So for each site in all sites, it will write what we're doing, on which site we are working, and after that it will look at how much the percentage of usage is for this specific site. From here on, it will write that it will increase the usage available for a specific site, and it will set the storage quota for 1.5 times the current amount consumed by this specific site. So if you run this daily, for instance, you can automatically increase the storage quota which is available for all these specific sites. Another command which is being used oftenly is the ability to create sites in bulk. So for instance, if you would need to create a lot of sites after each other, you can create all these sites in bulk basically by supplying or specifying all your sites in a CSV file. So in this case, I've created a CSV file which is called site list CSV. I'll open it up in Excel. There are 2 sites which are currently in this list with a specific template, a title, the storage quota and the resource quota, and an administrator connected to it. Next to that, I've specified a URL, which is not the entire URL, but only the URL after the site's parameter. From here on, a new SharePoint Online site will be created with the data which I've specified in my CSV file. And some feedback will be given that a specific site has been created. So if I perform this a PowerShell command, it will take this sites list and it will create all these different sites. So let me run this. It'll take a couple of seconds to give the command over to SharePoint Online. And from there, it will actually create all these sites for me. So let's reload that. Ooh, a site already exists. I should have known. All right, but you get the point. I don't want to change them again. All right, so these are some of the capabilities which are available in SharePoint Online to create sites or to perform sites or to perform actions in bulk. If we look at Link Online, currently there is no Link Online PowerShell module available. This module is currently in creation and it will be available later this summer to be expected. The Link Online PowerShell module, again, is not yet released. You can request it. There's a knowledge base article which actually describes how you can request this Link Online PowerShell module. And you will have to sign an NDA and a technical document specifying what you want to do with this Link Online module at this moment, and that Microsoft will monitor the operations that you're doing right now, basically because it's pre-release software. From there on, you can use your Link Online PowerShell module, especially for specific operations. So for instance, if you want to configure a split domain in your Link Online environment, or want to perform mass operations, or want to implement a link room system, you will need the Link Online PowerShell module to perform those operations. Again, please look at the knowledge base article, and from there on you can start working on it. All right, so I've set up some track resources where you can find more information about the operations which I've shown. I've written out all the different operations which I've demoed. I've given links to all the PowerShell commands that I've done, and especially the bigger script. There are some other scripts in there as well if you want to try them out, or if you want to try out different operations. There's some general resources as well, like Channel 9, where you can review this presentation, but other presentations as well, and some other information. All right, please fill out an evaluation form and win some prizes. And for now, that's it. Is there anybody with a question? No? All right, thank you.